And so it doesn't surprise me because it seems that ideas seem to be lacking. And it's unfortunate that people with ideas never have power or money. But the people with power and money are the ones without ideas. And so I believe that it will die on arrival. No, I don't think he will be the animal. I think he will be part of the tide.
Come on.
No, I think he'll be part of the tide. I don't think he's going to be the animal himself, but he will be part of the tide. I think he will be on that side of the wave, but I don't think he will be the wave. The bitterness, this wanasikia uchungu.
Glad to have you on Richard Mwenja exclusive. The month is February, the year of our Lord 2025. I'm here with you and with the amazing company of the Executive Director, Siasa Place, Madam Nerima Wako, to bring home conversations that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape. I'm Richard Mwenja, welcome on board. How about now I bring to your lenses the phenomenal think tank, Nerima Wako Ojiwa. Nerima.
Yes.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
You're well?
I am. I feel good this week. I feel rested.
I was expecting a sad face from you following our AUC loss. You seem so elated.
Well, it was bound to happen.
Oh, really?
Yes, really. On simple things, just like the way we behaved. I mean, I've been to Addis a number of times, and it's a very quiet city. I can't even imagine, you know, just all that pomp and noise, and I mean, the grandeur. It's a lot, and you know, sometimes, and I feel that's what, you know, Gen Zs were protesting against. It was just that whole arrogance and that of, you know, thinking through how we've already captured something even before you've. Yeah, and we're dealing with countries that are not as vocal as we are, you know, even in the region itself. When you think about the culture, you think maybe Nigerians, South Africans, and, you know, Kenya will come up there. So not all countries or people behave the way we do, which is just to be that pomp and loud and present and visible, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but in that situation, when it comes to diplomacy, it's terrible.
Humility would have been pristine for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're talking about bringing blocks together. So you have to realize we also come from the smallest block. EAC, how many are we? Like 8, you know?
But we had spoken to Macron.
8. Oh my gosh, that's even the worst. That was even the worst thing to do. Because even when you see what's happening in the West and how they're pushing back against him, and I mean, you know, the French, first of all, they are dealing with their own issues and trying to exit the European Union. And I mean, you wouldn't want to bring that baggage in. It would be trying to consolidate the African bloc and the African voice. So identifying with their issues and taking a stronger stance with them. Yet we've been on the other side of that.
Let's advance that conversation. Talking about us exporting the epitome of our political bad manners as a country to Addis Ababa over the last weekend. And looking at the size, the magnitude of Kenya's delegation there that went to support Baba's bid, would you say that it was genuine moral support, or it was making a statement that we are here to push down this agenda, your thoughts that Raila has to clinch this thing?
Let me ask you something, Richard.
Sure.
When you need moral support, you know, there are different acts of
morale booster.
Yeah, morale booster. I don't know what yours is. Because, you know, some people it's service, you know. Some people it can be financial, monetary. There are different ways to support someone. But then even when you see the kind of people who went on that trip, now what kind of support do you need? This is not a rally. We're not going outside to the public, so we need to have maybe dancers on a stage. We don't need people to give speeches. There's only one person who was going for that position. So what role were you playing? And you're talking about a diplomatic space. There was this minuscule number of foreign affairs ministers who even understand the historical context of our region and the roles that we have played. Let me tell you, there were meetings happening in that very building of people of substance who come from Kenya, but they were in the Tana Forum meeting, they were in other meetings, just watching the Kenyans going by looking foolish, you know. And for me, that's the embarrassment, because Kenya has such brilliant minds and beautiful people. But do you really see that in our political class?
Someone could be wondering
as arrogant and rude and self-centered. But that's not who the true Kenyan is. It's just a complete mismatch of our own identity.
Someone could be wondering, was tagging along Karen Nyamu an insult to intelligence or something like that? Because you are saying we should have harnessed the potential.
Insult.
It was?
It was. What was, first of all, she was like what was she? It was an insult. It was. Yes, it was.
Mockery to diplomacy.
Yes. Because even sometimes I saw some images of them. I mean, they were just by themselves, you know. Because even when you're going for a position that needs other countries to endorse and support you, so you go and mingle with the other countries. So now you've come all the way from Kenya to sit with Kenyans. Then why leave Kenya? They were not even trying to mingle with the Ethiopians. Not even. Not even. I didn't see any images of multiple nationalities together. Even having lunch with them to talk about who the candidate being fronted is, since you've worked with him for years. None of that. You have just sat next to the same choir that you normally sing with here at home. So what was the point of transporting you all the way there? And you know, traveling to somewhere like Ethiopia is not that cheap. Traveling within Africa is so expensive as compared to traveling to Europe. It's even cheaper sometimes to travel to the UK than to travel to Nigeria. It's expensive. Our air tariffs is a mess. Even when we talk about the fuel expenses, let's not talk about KQ. Let's not talk about how expensive sometimes KQ can be. So when you see all those officials, hundreds of them, that is a pain to taxpayers.
However, the argument from the political class that escorted Baba to Addis Ababa believe that actually saying we financed ourselves from our own pockets, not from the public coffers. Are you going to buy that argument?
No. Give me the evidence. It should be public information. Let us see the budgets.
Could have been state-sponsored opulence?
Absolutely. Because I'm not seeing how you're going to afford to travel to Addis, all of you, be in the same places, the same hotels, and afford it, and come back. And you're here, people are struggling to pay for healthcare, and you can't even contribute to the braking systems in your own constituencies. But you have money to travel for a trip for a few days. No, I don't think they paid it. If they did, show us the evidence. I'd be very happy to see that evidence.
Following the loss of Raila Odinga regarding that AUC bid, we saw the remark from President Ruto saying that it is Africa that has lost, not us really as a country. Africa has lost having the finest gem to lead the continent, that particular committee. Do you think we're exaggerating our abilities as a nation, or we are just still in that grieving process whereby we are still living in denial that there was someone better than Raila Odinga?
Yeah, I think that Raila has done a lot of things for our country, and they are things he has done in his past, even recorded in biographies of very influential leaders in Africa, where he has played a massive role. So it's not to downgrade that. But even in his own address, when he was asked particular questions about the future, he struggled. And we have to be honest about that. He kept speaking about the past. And that was a concern for many young people who I talked to. They're like, we don't understand his vision for the future. We kept hearing the historical context, the past, but what about the future? Because we're concerned about the future.
Not the second liberation.
No, not the second liberation. And you're also talking about a completely different dynamic. When you have Senator Okia Mtata telling people to use their devices, use your URL. You have a device here in the house, why are you not using it? And we are talking about a population that is very heavily engaged on social media.
Sure.
And this is the future that you're supposed to be drafting and supporting and building for a young population. You have to be able to understand. You have to be able to connect. And if you can't, then they will not be able to have faith in you. And for me, I think it just brought to the fore just how outdated our politics is. Our politics is outdated. We have politicians still mobilizing in the same way, organizing in the same way, but not realizing that the majority population has changed. And I think the ones who realize it are too afraid to come face to face with that acknowledgement. So what they do is to continue to behave in a context that they are used to. And for me, that's where their downfall is going to be.
Usual garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Then again, Nerima, following our laws at the AUC as a country, we have seen recommendation from members of parliament like George Kaluma saying it's high time Kenya pulls out of the African Union. And there are also those who are taking the blame squarely at the doorstep of Uhuru Kenyatta, our former president. Why are we so obsessed with taking blame games anytime we made spectacular failure as a country? And do you think Uhuru has anything to do with Raila's loss in the first place?
So the interesting thing about our blame games is the fact that nobody actually faces the consequences of the blame. So it's a lot of talk. We will shout, we will be on news channels insulting each other, we will see politicians do that. 3 weeks later, we've forgotten. No one's head rolled. No one was held responsible. There's no deeper analysis to actually tell us this is why we lost, and this position has been terminated due to that. We do not get to that conclusion. So for me, it's just banter. It's just a lot of noise. Feeling the air, it doesn't mean anything. And I don't think that we should pull out of the AU because even the way things are going, and I'll talk about it from the technological aspect one, and then immigration aspect too.
Tell us.
So even when you talk about the advancement of work and the future of work, right? A lot of us right now, where we have jobs that 10 years from now are going to be inconsequential. Lawyers, you'll be able to have ChatGPT to be able to tell you the law. These are the cases that have happened, and you can ask it questions in regard to the law, and it'll answer you. So there are some particular professions that you will not have people need people. You will not need people to study. That's just one of them.
Sure.
Number two is the technological aspect of all of our work. So even right now, you know, if you're unwell, you can get medication on an application and ask, you know, a doctor or nurse how you're feeling, and you can even order for your medication, and our border guy will come and deliver it without
click away.
Yeah, without you stepping into any hospital. This will become the reality for many. Right now, it's a reality for few, but it'll become the reality for many in the next 10 years, even sooner, even sooner. So every work that you do, anything and everything will have a technological aspect, right? So that's technology. So I wanted to bring that background. So that means you have to have the internet. And right now the internet is worldwide and it's broad. Laws are nationalistic, right?
Sure.
Yeah. But when you're talking about the internet that's global and it's impacting your living, your work, then the laws, will they remain to be nationalistic? No. They will become regional and some global. And we've already seen that push. Even when you talk about, say, cyberbullying and harassment online, we've seen that with some policies that have passed from the European Union, and you're seeing them adopting now in other continents. Now, Africa is still working toward policies, you know, around technology. And the reason why I'm saying Kenya cannot break away is this small example. When you break away, it becomes very difficult to enforce certain laws, especially in regard to technology. Because Meta, the decisions that they choose to make with Facebook, you can counter it as a region. You have more power to do that as a region. As Africa, this is our stance on the use of Facebook. We have seen India take that particular stance with TikTok. We've seen the continent of US, North America, do the same thing.
But as a united bloc.
As a united bloc. That's the only way you can have power against these big tech companies. And so why does this matter? Because at the US inauguration, we saw the largest tech companies front row while President Trump was being sworn in. That is a clear indication of the transition of power. It's now in technology companies. Our African presidents are still squabbling, not realizing that Africa holds the largest human resource, not compared to Asia, the largest human resource, the youngest population for decades, which will also have access to technology and devices and the internet. And how can you tap into that global market if you're fighting it as a nation? So for me, I don't think that, Kenya should pull away from the African Union. If anything, Africa should be working to come together, because what we're seeing is countries are becoming more concerned about their own interest first. And that's why when you're seeing French having conversations about exiting, or when you're seeing, even Germany having their elections again and they're becoming even more far right, and we're seeing that across Europe itself. You're seeing countries beginning to look at themselves like, who are we? Who is a true German? Who is a true English? And us as Africans, we're beginning to look at ourselves as individual states. And that's what broke us away. That's what broke us away and had borders. And we need to get rid of the borders, because the Africa Free Trade Area is supposed to be allowing us to have better market. We have to look at ourselves as our own sustainable market. That's the only way we're going to survive. Because the countries that our foreign or our previous governments have depended on foreign aid, we cannot continue to depend on foreign aid. We have to be sustainable with our own resource. And that's to look inward. And we can only look inward when we do it as a bloc.
Glad, Nerima, that you've talked about the need for us as a continent to be united. Otherwise, we fall when we are divided. But if you look at the quick pronouncements by President Ruto regarding continental affairs, or even global affairs, case in point, his pronouncement regarding the Sudan conflict, the Congo war, the Haiti mission, and also other peripheral issues in this continent. Would you say that he's sacrificing so much at the altar of Kenya's diplomatic face before the international community? Look, the other day, a rebel group from Sudan hosted their meeting here in Kenya. He's already quick to pronounce himself and his position over the Congo war and the Haiti mission, much as the ASC chairman. Do you think the president is justified to always make these quick pronouncements on hot, contentious issues?
I don't think he's justified to make such rash conversations, especially on the global scale. And I was shocked to see that at KICC, because I've tried to have events at KICC and they've been blocked. Even just a peaceful vigil, by the way. So by the time you have registered something to happen there, the state knows you're having it. They know. They do some verification. They know. They find out what's the background of the event. They know. So there's an approval that happens.
Oh, the entire bureaucracy.
Yeah. Yeah. Me, I've been rejected from KICC before, because when you have too many young people, they're like, "What's this you're trying to?"
They find you a threat.
Yeah. What is this you're trying to cook up? Unless now, there's a time we had to register for an event through someone who knew someone in government that was trusted. And that's how we booked KICC. So, yes, I felt it was important to give that background. So to say that, oh, we were not aware, that's bull. That's bull. And then the second thing, it was the flags. I was like, my goodness, the flags are up. I don't think, me, I still remember walking in Tao, and then when the flag is coming down at 6,
yeah,
what happens, Richard?
Stand at attention.
Stand at attention.
Yeah.
Do you know there are people who don't know that? There are people who don't know that.
To this date?
Yes. Like, I was walking in Tao, and then there were people who were still walking. And I was like, hiya.
And there you are, a patriot attack, Nerima wako.
Like, hiya, we don't do this anymore. Yes. And so for me, it's just to say the symbolism of flag.
It has lost its pride.
Oh my gosh.
And respect.
It's lost it. It's lost it, number one. And number two, to see that flag up just shows you that this meeting was very serious. Like you can't water it down. Like, no, it was just a gathering of stakeholders.
Sudanese people we just met for unity
you
talks.
You can't water it down. Just the very essence of the Sudanese flag waving in front of KCC building is just a message in itself. Is that, state is here. It's represented here. That for me, I was like, oh my goodness.
Nothing to do with our president.
What is going on? So even the pronouncements also, and with Haiti. I've lived in the US for a number of years, right? Like 7. And I would always have conversations with my Black American friends. And, there's this animosity, or in terms of, I don't know, call it animosity. There's this sense that, Black Americans are like, why did Africans do better to save us, from being transported as slaves? And, there are stories of some clans actually intentionally selling, people to go into slavery for profit, right? And so with Haiti, it's one of those countries that Black population, pushing, they're having their own revolution. One of the first, countries to decide that they wanted to self-rule. That's how you have the stories of Marcus Garvey, like the history of Haiti is the independence of the African man. And even, philosophers like Frantz Fanon, I mean, there's so much wealth of the pride of being Black and being African that stems from Haiti. And some of the concerns was, how can Kenya agree? How can Kenya be sent? And it's those narratives that I would say Kenya doesn't have a very good reputation of having. Even when it came to certain decisions, like with Uganda and Idi Amin, like we normally play a very silent role in terms of we're not going to have a voice when it comes to emancipating others, Black people. And that's a taint that I don't like Kenya to have. And also, I mean, even in Tanzania, they'll call us, arrogant and, corrupt and rude. Those sort of perceptions of us is something that I don't like. And it's because of our capitalistic nature. When we look at our forefathers from the building of our nation, it is business first. It's business first. It's always been business first.
Not the interest of the nation?
No.
Of the people who fought for the struggle?
It's been business first. I think what this president has done is just he's brought it to the face.
Amplifying that?
Yeah. It's been business first, but I feel previous presidents have played a diplomatic role of hiding their business roles. But this one, he brought business forward. He's like, business now is, I'm going to show you it's about business. And then the other relationship stuff is the one that I've exchanged. That's what has happened.
Be it the Kiza Besige thing, whatever, it is business first.
Yeah.
At the expense of the country's diplomatic outlook?
Unfortunately.
Then again, if we look at sort of the stance the government has tried to pull recently, case in point, the misstep by Foreign Affairs PS Korir Ngoe endorsing a fake video that was sort of
oh my gosh.
giving life to Kenya's diplomatic abilities and all that, and how it is helping in boosting humanitarian aid out here. Do you think this is a government that is desperate for PR?
Absolutely. First of all, the post, I saw it when it came out. I actually saw it from his handle because it ended up being deleted.
Sure.
And when the post came out, I remember I just saw fake analyst, and I was like, fake analyst? So I click on it, and I remember seeing CNN, and then when some of the video is playing, I'm saying, where is there footage from VOX? Where is there some footage that looks grainy and old? Like, even I could tell that there was something fishy about this video. I didn't finish it. I remember just stopping it and being like, there's something sketchy about this video, but because I saw it during the day, I was like, I'll come back to it, only to let us see now people, the uproar about, generated AI video. And Hey, hey. I mean, I don't even know. This thing for me, it was very serious. Like, I woke up in the morning, like, how
So
are we
low for a
not
government?
So, yeah. I woke up in the morning like, how are we not outraged? Like, we should be more outraged than this. Simply because you hear people talking about disinformation, you know, the intentionality to share false information. And it reminds me of the time of Huduma number, where you know, government was like, if you don't register for it, you're not going to be able to access government services.
Yeah.
And I'm like, every citizen has a right. So me, I refused to register for it, and I'm very proud
To
of
this
that.
date,
Yeah,
you don't
I'm
own
very,
one?
very proud that I don't own one, because it logically I don't. Even they stopped trying to register people.
Sure.
They now put Maisha number, which is now being used, but we still have an ID number. I still don't understand why we have these two numbers. Anyway. So, I'm a very pragmatic person. I like to do things that make sense. The government wasn't making sense to me. And government starts to say that you have to do this because we said so, and we're going to spend 10 billion to do that. That's what this administration has shown us, that their PR. This is working because we said so. This is good for you because we said so. This is what needs to happen because we said so. Like, there's no essence of the evidence that exists. We have done an analysis, gotten even an independent researcher to be able to demonstrate to us how our impact is showing results in the community. No, they will tell you this is what needs to happen. And for me, when he's sharing a video like that and worrying about fake analysts, there's still a group trying to recognize themselves as leadership in our CBD, you know?
Yeah.
But he's concerned about fake analysts. Oh my gosh.
Does that explain now why during the State of the Nation address, the most recent one, before Parliament, that is from the President himself, why there was a mismatch between the figures he was reporting and the figures that were there from the Treasury? Is it a case of someone lying but with a bold face?
I think so, because the thing is, even about the lying, the truth always comes to light. You know, you can't lie about numbers. You can't lie about reality, because, you know, there are other entities that work in the same space that will come and counter, that will come and say, nope, according to our data, this is a false, you know, and that's the way things should be. There should be room for criticism, because within that room, it allows for better decisions and for growth. But when you come in, and it reminds me of the book of George Orwell, 1984, is it 1984?
1984,
Yeah, and he talks about the power of information. I mean, he talks about a lot of things, but how, you know, government utilizes information to frame your mental psyche, to frame your reality. And it's really concerning, because even within that book, you don't have the choice to know what's right or wrong. It gets to a point where you're consistently fed as a population what is right for the country, what you can do. It now no longer becomes about the law. It no longer becomes about the constitution, okay? Because even those fake analysts is talking about, see, it's freedom of expression. You should be allowed to express yourself. And so it becomes about what government sees a right to communicate, not about what is true. And I think that's a powerful book to be able for us to read through. Because if we're not careful, that's where we're going to head to, especially when we look at the control of information, if we begin to see the stifling of media and even independent institutions like these ones. They'll start to clamp down on the negative voices and the critics. That's when we begin to really worry about our own independence as citizens.
So you foresee a situation whereby dissenting voices, especially those from the media, are going to be emasculated and just being tamed?
Yes, if we continue in this trajectory, yes. Yes, they will start very lightly. I mean, if you can be abducted for sharing an image, an AI-generated image, you're being abducted. A whole PS shares an entire video of AI that's fake, and nothing happens to him. We're already seeing the double standard.
Hypocrisy?
Yes, we're already seeing it. So that fear there's an installation of fear that if we are not careful about, it will begin to limit people's expression and limit even the mainstream media from being able to share some views. And then it comes to limit people like you, where now they come for the big tech companies and they say shut down that station, shut down that channel, make sure that handle disappears. I know people who lost their handles. They criticized someone, they wake up, their handle doesn't exist. That happens. Yes, it's a very possible reality.
Let's circle back to Raila's loss at the AUC bid before we flip over to our next subject for today's conversation. Now, Raila has lost the AUC bid. This is yet another loss to his chest. And we are at a time whereby there are those who are questioning that probably Raila needs to go home and rest, or he just needs to be out of any elective bid in the near future. From where you sit, Nerima, having been actively in Kenya's political and governance space, do you think Raila Odinga is living on borrowed political oxygen?
I think that he still has influence. I don't think it's as large as maybe his team envisions it to be. I think he's slowly losing, especially with the younger groups, just because he's not as active as he used to be. And so we normally see him being fronted during times of tension. And so he has been known to come out in that period for especially Gen Zs, and not really millennials, but a bit of millennials. But the reason why I think that he still plays an important role is because it makes me think of 2002, when now the National Rainbow Alliance, they've come together, and, you know, everyone seemed to be on one side against, you know.
The wave of change.
Yes. And it was in that moment that, you know, he said, Kibaki, Tosha. I think what they are trying to do is now build a similar umbrella. So when you see now, you know, Kalonzo, Gachagua, Wamalwa, now you're seeing them coming together. They'll form a name very similar to Rainbow.
A reincarnation of the Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah, a reincarnation, very similar. And then they will keep, you know, putting the pressure on Rao to come to this side and endorse whoever they select to endorse. Because I think I saw Jubilee saying Matiang'i is their candidate, but who knows?
It remains to be seen.
Oh, it remains. Oh, it wasn't? Okay. Anyway, so, and, you know, endorse whoever they select to endorse. So it's not that, you know, history has a sense of repeating itself. And I think they still need his influence to sort of say Tosha. They still need it. But as far as mobilizing, I think that there are clusters that have developed. And influences of power, his power dynamics have also shifted. I think there are a lot of new, younger faces that have propped up that have brought a bit of confusion, especially for his normal voting bloc, because they're not all on the same page. I'm talking about Babu Owino. I'm talking about Sifuna. So it could just, you know, create a little bit of division. I don't know how that will bring these two together. Even if they choose not to, it's fine. But that's why I think a bit of influence is going to be lost, because normally he, you know, will have people that he endorses and they bring their networks, but also these people come with their networks to be endorsed by him. So it's a relationship. And I think he does have a role to play, but not as actively as he has been playing. I think his role has changed. And thinking about the presidency, no, I don't think we should be like Nigeria. No. I see their president and I really struggle to identify.
Nigeria shouldn't be our true north here?
No. We need to be as far away as possible.
Hey, Ogopa.
Nigeria as possible. We're just like, Nigeria is the example we do not want to be. Yeah, because it's a struggle to have such a role at an advanced age.
But the argument from skeptics to argument would then argue that for Raila Odinga, history has proved him to be a political animal that can morph into something bigger, something larger than life every time loss comes his way. Do you think this time round he stands that chance to morph into a bigger political animal that can flatten any wave coming his way?
No, I don't think he will be the animal. I think he will be part of the tide.
Come on.
No, I think he'll be part of the tide. I don't think he's going to be the animal himself, but he will be part of the tide. I think he will be on that side of the wave, but I don't think he will be the wave.
Are you trying to say risasi ilikuwa imebaki moja?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is, I hope there's an alternative. And I pray that that alternative has a different breed of leadership. Honestly, I don't even know how Ugandans feel seeing Museveni like their whole lives. You know.
So when parliamentarians like Samson Cherargei come forth and say it's time we rethink extension of term limits as a country, probably push it to 7-year terms so that we can see development as a country and also allow the president to sit into power and now achieve his vision in the long term. Are you going to buy that?
No, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not. I think that the amount stipulated, the amount of time is enough. I believe that that gives them enough pressure to be able to perform within a short period of time. Because what happens is when you extend time, it's like even if you live somewhere nearby, you underestimate. Because you're like, anyway, niko karibu. So, it takes me 15 minutes, hata nitatoka nyumba in 15 minutes, which is the mistake I made today. So, when you live nearby, going close places to you, you underestimate your time. But when you know that this is the time I have, and I cannot, and maybe not, possibly, have an extension, you will utilize that time well. Because you know, this is the time frame I've been given. As soon as it's 7 years, you'll be like, it's the opposite politically. I have a long time. Right now, wacha ni relax. That election cycle was very chaotic. Wacha ni pumzike. The next year, hey, let me see if I've put my people in the right places. And my investment, have I paid everybody I need to pay? Yeah. Then the third year, hey, now my children, where are they going to be after me? You know, let me start to build them politically. Then the fourth, I mean, you're not even thinking about Kenya. By the time you think about Kenya, it's now toward the end. You're like, okay, what legacy am I going to leave behind? So you start working toward the end of your term. We will waste time with you if you have that time being 7 years. No, I think it should remain what it is already.
It makes sense. Raila has lost the AUC bid, and already a section of political class are calling for constitutional amendment just so to create the position of a prime minister. From where you sit as a very active citizen in this country and a governance expert, Nerima, do you think that we are somewhat going to hijack the constitution for selfish interest, that we need Baba busy? Let him come and be our prime minister.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I wouldn't even do that in my organization. There's someone, he's hardworking. Wacha ni tengeneze position. Atafanya nini? I can't even do that. My goodness. And then you want to do that with an entire country? In your own company, the people who do those things, do those companies last? Because you end up having an individual who now feels that, oh, because I was approached, I was headhunted, they come in with so much ego, you can't work with them.
Indispensable.
They're indispensable. Then now you've created a problem that didn't have to exist. I think it's a terrible idea. But what I'm happy about, they've tried it multiple times. And we've seen it fail. And so I hope that the Constitution continues to hold us. Yeah, because, you know, even with BBI, they tried to stick it in. You know, NADCO, there were rumors about it. It had started and then it dropped off somewhere because people came out more loudly about high cost of living. They dropped it. So they've tried it before. And so it doesn't surprise me because it seems that ideas seem to be lacking. And it's unfortunate that people with ideas never have power or money. But the people with power and money are the ones without ideas. And so I believe that it will die on arrival.
Dead on arrival?
Dead on arrival. Yeah.
What then do you make of the argument from Junet Mohammed regarding those who celebrated the loss of Raila Odinga regarding the AUC bid? And he says that at the right time, we shall revisit. All you celebrating Baba's loss, your time is coming. We shall revisit. And Pundits have interpreted that to be directed towards PO Box, blah, 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 wa Manyora, that's DP Rigathi Gachagua, former DP, and the gamer community. Do you think you are trying to pit Kenya against a single community to settle our political scores?
I think they're trying to, but I don't think it's going to work. I think, we're dealing with also a generation that has also mixed quite a bit. My family, we have like 6 tribes now. I mean, we're in all the big 5 and more. And so you'll see even a lot of intermarriages. So now, even that conversation, it might have worked 30 years ago. I don't think it's going to build as a larger momentum as they're expecting it to build, especially in urban areas. It's not going to work. And I think that there are people who just want a better Kenya. And it's so, when I saw that, actually, I giggled a bit because I was like, wow, he is so bitter. As in, the bitterness, when I skia uchungu, I could see it.
Baba hakufa kuanguka, ni Uhuru ameangusha baba. That's the argument.
Now Uhuru, surely. He had attended his own separate meeting. He has his own focus on other things. Does that guy look like he wants that stress? Even when you see him talking lately, he's just like, where I suffered. I suffered as a president. I wasn't even watching news. Hata hiyo Twitter nilitoka kitambo. You know how we threw him out
Gazeti
of
likafungia nyama.
Nyama. No, this man saying those things. Surely, you really see him being involved. This man who loved reggae. This man who could do anything just to relax and laugh. You're telling me he's the one who has decided to draft this plan to come
If
on.
not Uhuru, they are saying it is Rigathi Gachagua sending his lieutenants to paint the image of Kenya, to soil it before the international face so that Raila can lose the AUC bid. If not Uhuru, it's now Gachagua.
So now, if that was the case, then it is upon the delegation to go and counter. It is upon them to come up with a strategy. If they knew these people are going around and soiling. See, did not Raila travel to 33 African countries? Yeah. He traveled to 33.
And we even spoke to Macron, don't forget that.
Imagine. So if you are doing a good job, surely you do not worry about these other people gossiping behind your back. That means that you don't have people in your team who are adequate enough to get the job done. And that's the reality of it. I think it's just a lot of banter. It's a lot of noise.
Should we accept the defeat? We ran a poor campaign for AUC bid, and now we should probably focus on the next agenda.
I think the campaign, they used a lot of energy in the wrong places. I don't think, it's poor. But I don't think it's something to be so upset about as they are. Man, see, we got to number 2.
And we've been so consistent with number 2, by the way, especially for Raila Odinga.
Yeah.
Top 2, always top 2.
That's a low blow.
Nerima, in the interest of time, let's now converse about delivering Kenya to be that Singapore of Africa in our lifetime. And there are those who argue that we are looking at Vision 2030 coming to close in the next 5 years. And we need another vision as a country. But then again, who's going to be the custodian of our next vision as a country? The usual political class, or now probably entrust that with the Gen Z? Who should be the custodian of the next vision past 2030?
I think it would be so futuristic to have the Gen Zs and the Alphas as the custodians. I think yesterday I was on a call, on a podcast, and I was listening to people who've just finished KCSE. I'm talking about 18, 19, and the brilliance and the optimism. For
people
them,
without a PhD.
Without a PhD.
And they were that brilliant.
Imagine, now anasoma gazeti.
Nasiwa Alliance.
Imagine. Yeah, okay, there was one from Alliance.
Oh, kama Ishungwa.
And Starehe. But just to hear, some of them talking about, there's a question that was asked, during the protest, what were you doing? Because they were in school. And all of them were saying how we wanted to know what was going on in the country. We would meet in the library and just be begging, even if we can get from the headmaster kama ni gazeti, or to be able to watch the news. We wanted to be there.
They were at work.
And these are students, like former students, talking to me last night. And I was so inspired. I was like, you're 18. And some of them come to my office. Last week, Moria, he's 19. He came to my office and he's like, I am interested in politics. I am going to study political science. I want this country to change. I want to be part of that change. And so even for me, it's to see that this generation is completely different from us. And I think they recognize just how important opportunities for them are. You know, they are very, very competitive, very alert, and they know that things cannot continue in the same trajectory, and they're the ones who will have longer to live. That's why they should be the custodians. Because if you have another Agenda 2030 and you add it to Agenda 2060, it's going to be these 18-year-olds who will be able to live through and say, did we do a good job? Are we on the right track? They're the ones who should be the custodians. For the rest of us, we will be aged, God willing. Some of us might not be here. And that's why they need to be the ones that carry that mantle.
So then again, in the architecture of our next vision as a country, post-2030, what should be the cornerstone agenda? A call for accountability as a country, or even just being truth about ourselves as a country? What should be that prime call to action for us as a country then?
Just, yes, I agree with you, the accountability, following the rule of law.
Just that.
Just, it's as simple as that. It just should be, no one is above the law.
It stems from that?
Yes. If we just follow that, systems, we would be okay. Because even if you look at everything that happens wrong, it's because, you know, people are bribing to pay these. People, like even to get an ID, the service charter says 25 days. Follow the law. 25 days ikipita unapata ID yako. I mean, if we just followed the rule of law, whoever is next and just says, I'm going to follow the rule of law, Kenya will be fine. And even it's through that following of the rule of law, we will not have politicians having these pseudo companies to be able to make money, because it's against the law. It's against Chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. Follow the rule of law. And so I think that if we just implement that, and even traffic, when you see people, you know, overtaking you the wrong side, follow the rule of law. You're supposed to be going on this side, you go on this side. I think Kenya would change very quickly with just that simple statement. Yeah.
It makes sense. Finally, Nerima, let's talk about now a bit of our economy as a country. The cabinet the other day just approved budget estimates for the next financial year, 2025-2026, and it's capped at around 4.2 trillion Kenyan shillings. A very historic figure for us as a country. But then again, the CS Mbadi for National Treasury and Economic Planning has come forth and said, we're not going to impose additional taxes on Kenyans. But even if you look at that budget itself, many are saying it's not realistic. It's an overambitious budget. Do you think Kenyans should treat Mbadi's remarks with a pinch of salt, that they're not going to be taxed in the next financial year?
I don't know how they're expecting to raise that money because, yeah, take it with a pinch of salt. It needs to be raised, especially as soon as that's tabled, unless they're going to borrow more money, which I think is already worse, because even when you look at what World Bank and IMF advises in regards to GDP, we can't pass 55%. We're already at 60-something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we are already at the limit. So I don't see how it's going to work any other way. I know even recently they were talking about SHA and increasing contributions. True. Because the average is 560. They're already increasing it. They're trying to increase it to 880. And so when you see them talking about utilizing M-Pesa to investigate, you know, how much to see what other people can contribute and add more when KRA is there also, that's concerning. So it's also intrusive in terms of the kind of information that's volunteered. So no, I do see taxes coming up. I don't see any other way that they're going to be able to raise it.
All right, very finally, Nerima. Now we're looking at a case whereby our key political leaders, President Ruto, DP Rigathi, Gachagua, the former, are all battling for the heart and soul of Raila Odinga after his loss at the AUC. Do you think they're battling Raila Odinga because they harbor the best interest of Kenyans, or is it to fulfill their selfish political interest and future elective bids?
They are future elective bids. That's what they're gunning for. I think it's to remain relevant. The playing field has changed, and everyone is trying to grapple in understanding what that change means. and they're trying to create their blocks. And so for me, I think it's going to be an interesting few months to watch. I think they're going to be surprised with a few individuals that pop up. It's not going to be new. I mean, we had Gachagua in 2022. And he actually got votes, by the way.
He did.
He got votes. He got
Bigger
votes.
than those garnered by pastors.
He did. So that even shows you the kind of population we're talking about. Because imagine that cluster, they will increase by the millions by the time we're talking about 2027. So they will be a surprise candidate, in my view. Yes. I mean, it's only organic. It's only bound to happen. It's only natural. Yeah.
On a scale of what, 1 to 10, of course 10 being the highest, hypothetically speaking, if an election was held today in Kenya, what are the chances President Ruto will have gotten a second term from your optics?
Below, I was going to say below 3. Below 3. He would not be. He would not be elected again.
So Goi Express would be on the way?
Yeah. He would not be. He would not be.
On account of failed promises? Or
yes. Too many failed promises. In fact, even, I think even the priorities that he has, you know, even like the video that he shared about the road being done, I don't know where.
Mandera to Ramu.
Yeah. And, you know, doing another video, which is, it's great that he's trying to remove this very official side to him and to joke about it. And but Kenyans were not even, I mean, they're just bothered with him. You know how you have said so many things that people just stop to believe you anymore. They're just like, no, I don't think it's true. And for people to come out and bring facts that, oh, that was something that even happened before your time, that's not something that you did, but you're claiming credibility and credit.
Still in the thunder.
Still, yeah. And so now those are the things that people began to pick out. So it seems that every time people find a nickname for him or a joke around him and a meme, he tries to own it. And I think that actually makes people more upset. They go and now find a new one to insult him. Just leave people be and just focus. I think his priorities are mismatched.
Nerima Wako believes that the president's priorities are mismatched and it doesn't harbor any good for Kenyans in the balance of the time before 2027 elections. It remains to be seen whether he'll change for the better and probably herald better fortunes for us as a country. But until then, do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Thank you so much, Nerima, for slating time and giving us incredible insights about what's happening in this country.
Thank you.
Now you need to earn your PhD, for real.
I should. It's tough.
But let it be genuine.
No, I'm genuine. I'm a genuine person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I have no doubt.
I look forward to witnessing your PhD graduation. But then again, thank you so much. And to you who is watching there, keep this conversation going beyond here. I'm at Mwenja Richard on X. Get Nerima Wako at Nerima W on X and across her other social media handles. We really want to engage you so that we know probably the conversations you'd wish us to unpack in our subsequent editions and also to get your feeling about what we've conversed on today. Until we get to do this again, enjoy the rest of your viewing. Do have a good day.